Good morning, everybody. It's going to be another talk. I've had an extreme amount of disenfranchised Republicans responding on my post. For all my loyal followers, you've seen, I think, anyone who's followed me for any amount of time, the amount of just absolute trolling by every kind of walk out there. It's disillusioning for me. If you would have said this to me 6 months ago, you're going to get just hammered by Republicans. I think we all could have agreed to laugh about that, but it's not the reality. And like a lot of these disenfranchised Americans hammering on me right now, it's it's all about a reality they don't want to accept, and I get that. But I'm an Albertan, and a lot of them are learning real fast I'm Canadian. I've followed Donald Trump for over 8 years since 2012. I've read absolutely everything that man's published. I got on board with the Trump admin and loyalty wise, probably one of the first. That's definite, and I've watched time and time again, the attack on him, and it got really mainstream. Of course, once he was elected, a lot of that left narrative and mainstream media didn't really believe he ever was going to become president of the United States, but he did. And then we saw, and I think everyone can agree, the massive attack from media upon Donald Trump. That's probably the worst attacked president in absolute all of history. Donald Trump in media. Never seen a president that attacked every day by all mainstream media. He was absolutely attacked. So, getting into Alberta's hope for people watching, and I know there's a big falling off right now as people don't want to, respond to reality. But the reality for Alberta is this, everybody, and especially my loyal followers, whether Americans want to look at this or not. Alberta is a province inside Canada. We're very much landlocked. We have extreme problems with trade interprovincially. Our almost entire system of primary trade is with the United States of America. We're our largest trading partner is the United States. And if you look, any American can look and you'll see Alberta is the United States number one trading partner by goods alone. We're number one in any North American region. That includes Mexico per person per capita. Alberta trades the most with the United States of America. So you're absolutely very important to us. Unfortunately, what has happened here, Canada signed on to a Paris Climate Accord. They've taken this global socialist reset to heart. Our liberal government, our version of a Republican Party, which really isn't Republican at all, is the CPC, and they've adopted those same principles too. We all uniformly followed Barack Obama. That was Stephen Harper, and then to be Justin Trudeau. They all followed Barack Obama's lead to a T. They all gave him a standing ovation in our parliament. Anyone could go look at that video, which was to the detriment of Alberta. Since that time, Alberta, this province, just like an American state, has gone through absolute insane socialist, globalist wealth transfer, the largest seen out of any region in the entire North America. That's Mexico, United States, and Canada. Alberta has disproportionately transferred the most massive amount of wealth inside our Canadian system. And now with the coming of Joe Biden, that promises to have the United States of America under a President Joe Biden enact the exact same laws, some of which are going to be ratified into world binding law. That will be the Paris Climate Accord. He promises a massive cut to Line 5, it looks like, which will be 800,000 barrels of Alberta oil. They call it Canadian oil, but the reality is it's all out of Alberta, going to Illinois and then being distributed throughout Eastern America and, of course, north to Canada. And that's the Laurentia side of the Eastern Canada that controls a mass amount of Alberta's ability to vote or enact change in Canada, which we can't. United States of America, individual 50 states don't experience any kind of oppression like this. This is why we get into election rules and people are upset. People are upset about their Supreme Court and how things are working for the states right now because they're upset about the election. However, those same laws protect individual states from massive oppression that this region, Alberta, my province that I live in, has been going through since 1905. Americans have no clue just how bad it could get if you were to nullify those kinds of powers of state. That's what I was trying to communicate yesterday, but it's, of course, right over people's heads. They don't realize what they're absolutely losing. And it's okay. I take that name calling. I take all of it. I don't like any further trolling. I will start blocking radicalized Republicans who continue forward on my other posts that aren't tagged within the presidency that's currently sitting, which is Donald Trump and his son. So I've done this video. That's going out, and we'll see what kind of response I get from the Republicans. But Americans have to understand that Alberta now faces a two-front war. We were taking this war from our eastern Canada that has literally devastated our province. For American states, imagine going from a balanced budget to a $20 billion deficit. Year after year, the Paris Climate Accord and the big emitters carbon tax, they call it, the tax on Alberta to transfer Alberta's wealth to the rest of Canada, is now going to be imposed by Joe Biden as the President of the United States going forward, January 20th. He's going to use the same executive power bestowed upon Donald Trump to reenact Paris Climate Accord. There's no House or Senate that can stop that. Joe Biden will enforce that. He will push that forward, allowing the same version that Justin Trudeau bestows upon Alberta will be done by over 325 million Americans against only 4.2 million landlocked Albertans. We can't afford the gross transfer of wealth. It will literally shut down our oil and gas. For hope of what Alberta can do, we are going out on the world stage. We're contacting the UNSC. We're putting up our own little fights. A group of Albertans. We're going to try that. Another thing we could do is absolutely shut down oil and gas, close all that, we call it close the taps legislation. We could impose that on the United States. If we were to do that, the West Coast, that Democratic side of the Democrats that say this radical environmentalism is a great thing. Well, if Alberta decided tomorrow to shut off all the taps, if we didn't transfer our vast quantities of natural gas to British Columbia, which is then shipped down south along the western coast to all those massive states, California being one of the biggest in USA, we could literally, just with the plants we have right here in my northern region, Edmonton, we could literally ground 1/3 of the aircrafts in the United States literally within months. That would shut down 1/3 of all commercial aircrafts in the United States. That would be absolutely destructive. 40% of California's energy requirements for power are derived from Alberta, Canada. If we shut off the taps and just our natural gas, never mind our oil and everything else we produce and trade with the United States, we literally would have a place like Los Angeles and rolling blackouts, and the amount of protests and everything else that would go on would be absolutely not seen since the early 90s, and just right in Los Angeles, California. A lot of people don't realize these economic realities, that this is something Alberta could do to turn the tide if this great oppression is placed on us. Whether our governments will do that remains to be seen, but it is an option. It's not the first option. The first option is always to, discuss, sit down and debate. Whether Jason Kenney is going to do that remains to be seen. I think Canada will work with Joe Biden to impose all these restrictions on Alberta. Whether that means we're going to lose KXL and lose over $11 billion against just 4.3 million, almost 4.4 million Albertans remains to be seen. There's a lot we have to plan for. We have to be ready. Talking about Joe Biden coming in January 20th is the likely reality here. The odds of the election being turned over at this point are literally 0.056%. It's an astronomical number. It's ludicrous to even believe that Donald Trump's going to go forward as president. Now, people can keep trying to champion all kinds of, narratives that that's going to go forward, but it's not, everybody. And the reality is, in precedent and historical American data, Joe Biden is going to be president of the United States. And these realities of what Alberta has to face, we have to face it. We have to look at things logically, and we need to go and fight back against our Canadian system and change the rules of how Canada runs. And if we can't do that, that means Alberta independence. We have to be ready for 2023 and not, well, we'll see as it comes then. This is the hope of changing our constitution, absolutely gutting it in Canada, or creating the independent nation of Alberta with our own constitution and stand on the world stage in fair economic trade that is presented to every landlocked nation in the world. We don't get this as the province of Alberta because we're in a UN country called Canada. A lot of people don't want to look at this reality or see it for what it is, but as long as we remain, I promise you, the sanctions, the embargoes, what we're facing in Canada is only going to be greatly more imposed under a Joe Biden, and that's reality. The hope here is we can educate enough Albertans to get the message out, to get this changed and see independence in 2023. If we don't have a unified voice, a unified independence party with a real strategy, a real narrative that can be shared out to each and every Albertan, we aren't going to have any hope. But that is the hope. That's what we have to do going forward, and that's what needs to be shared out. Whether people like that reality or not, it's not going to change that putting your head in the sand or betting on a president of a foreign nation winning an election he's clearly lost is not going to save us from the absolute reality of what is coming. And that's a Joe Biden 2020. And people can kick, stomp, get angry, but it's not going to change what is coming and what we have to be prepared for. The hope is in education. The hope is in getting independence mainstream and getting ready to stand on our own and going out in world international law as a UN nation. And we can do this. It's possible through that UNSC, even though the Clarity Act greatly restricts us. Just by doing the legal, lawful referendum is enough where we can go to the UNSC at that point. That's all we have to do. And this is what we have to get out. It's going out anyway on the world stage, and we're going to continue to do that. Thanks, everybody. Please share. Get it out there. Bye now.